One ringy dingy, 17,411.93 to pi r squared ringy dingies.
Hello, your eminence.
Hello, your effluence. What should we talk about today?
Your sister.
Oh, that's all we've been talking about for the last 10 years.
She's the only one that matters.
She doesn't matter to me, which reminds me of a great song by Bread. You want me to sing it?
Yeah, go ahead.
It don't matter to me if you take up with someone who's better than me, 'cause your happiness is all I want for you to find. Would you be happy if I sent Trump an open letter and we published it saying, I think it's time to expose Christine Marcy? Or do you think he's playing, is he on the same team with Christine Marcy? I guess that's a fair question.
Well, I think the way to answer that is your sister has survived after our exposure that goes back at least to 2007, either because she's got incredibly powerful friends or she's got a whole bunch of terrified enemies. And my guess is that Trump is a terrified enemy of your sister.
Well, all he has to do is ask me to go kill her. I'll be happy to.
Yeah, but that doesn't solve the issue because what your sister has done, and let me just read the second paragraph of today's post. And this indicates that she's been doing this at least since 1986. McConnell notes that in 1986, his sister Christine Marcy outsourced the training of ICE, that's Immigration Customs and Enforcement, which is a sub-agency of the Department of Homeland Security, and preceding organizations such as U.S. Customs Service, Criminal Investigative Detention and Deportation Resources of the INS, and the Federal Protective Service, to Serco, which mixes on-site and remote support staff and combines creative animation techniques, sound effects, and talented voice actors, playing multiple characters to simulate and in square brackets, pig farm crime scene. Now, do you think we're talented voice actors, Field, you and me?
Well, I don't
not
know.
You. Do you think I am?
No, I don't.
Neither do I.
Well, I guess that settles it.
Well, maybe. Well, anyway, so your sister, when you think of it, what kind of talented voice actors she could recruit, she launches the United States prisoner and justice and transportation, prisoner and alien transportation system, right? In 1994.
Yes.
So how many talented voice actors could she recruit who in terms of talent would be able to put on a wonderful pedophile snuff film?
I
or
think
pretend to be Osama bin Laden? Basically, her choices are unlimited, right?
I was going to say almost infinite.
Exactly. And so let me read you the first paragraph of today's post. United States Marine Field McConnell, Global Operations Director of Able Danger, which of course is an acronym for God, and I'm sure there's no ambition there, Field.
No, there is none.
Exactly. Has shown how CAI special investors have been trapping and blackmailing guests in Trump hotels with pay-per-view images of snuff films or child pornography, originally produced by Serco and ICE actors at a BC pig farm, or with pay-to-play leverage lease frauds using BC Online to strip assets from rightful owners. Now, you are in the process of having, or they're attempting to strip your assets, right?
Yeah, funny you should mention that. Before you got on, I was telling the people that the Office of Lawyer Regulation in Madison, Wisconsin called me today about my grievance against the attorney. And if anybody tells me that I posted the grievance before, that's great. Otherwise, I can try to find it and post it now, or I can post it after the show. So yes, it's called asset stripping, and I have reason to believe it's either a judge or an attorney who's interested in my house. And as you can imagine, David, I probably have some pretty strong thoughts about that.
Well, I think it's legitimate, but how old do you think the techniques of asset stripping are, over?
Well, I think they go back to 1086 when Ethelred the Ready said, watch out for any American attorneys that pop up in the next 700 years.
Well, Machiavelli, he said you should always avenge small injuries because a man can avenge small ones but not fatal ones. But going back to asset stripping, I mean, how about Donald Trump when he starts his career? He gets a bit of money from his daddy and he goes into the cesspit of New York and New Jersey and starts trying to develop property. Now, people, even those who don't live in New York and New Jersey, even up here, they know or they respond to a semi-rhetorical question is, do you think Donald Trump consorted with the mob to build his casinos? Well, everyone agrees he consorted with the mob. The question is, to what degree did he consort with the mob? And how did the mob conceal its activities? Well, you know what they did, Phil? They created what is known as a private equity group called CAI. CAI stands for Canadian American Investors. And this is an alleged racketeering, influence, and corrupt organization engaged in loan sharking. And what they did is they lent President Trump a whole bunch of money to build his interests in casinos, hotels, and airlines with what is known as a leveraged lease. Did I teach you what a leveraged lease was?
Well, you caught me at an awkward moment. I was looking at a bottle of Crown Royal Rye whiskey, which hasn't been opened, and it's been sitting here for 8 months. It's about time to crack it open. As I recall, on the 8th of August of 2007, we were talking about leverage, arbitrage, leveraged leases, the ABA and the BAA, let me think about this, British Bankers Association, BAA, and their relationship to Jana Ryan, who's married to Congressman Paul Ryan of Wisconsin, who's really tight with George Soros. In fact, he's on the George Soros payroll, along with John McCain, John Kasich, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, and some other person with a name that's hard to pronounce. And I find it's interesting that out of the 5 names I just rattled off, 3 of them are known to be gay or bisexual. But what was your question, leverage? Yes, it was on the 8th of August of 2007. We also discussed Romney's mantle pants, Bill Clinton's voodoo underwear. Did I ever tell you, David, that the Clinton Foundation made $13.5 billion with the Haiti earthquake? He apparently turned his mic off. We'll get back to
I
him.
turned it back on again. No, you didn't.
Oh, well, yes, I did, but let's not argue. Okay, but anyway, and the last thing was Hillary's foul taint. Now, if anybody like Gordon Banks or Jack Mack really want to present something the chat room people might enjoy, it's there's a cartoon, and I think you can find it by Googling Hillary's foul taint plus Able Danger. Okay, David, over to you. Did I answer your question? Because yes, you did discuss leverage leases.
Yeah, to paraphrase you, which of course yours was brilliant, so I'm just a little mundane explanation. But as I understand it, a leverage lease is where the big money of the lessor goes in, and the lessee is responsible for collecting the rents and applying for insurance compensation, etc., etc. And all of that flows back to the lessor, lesser deduction by the lessee. Like Larry Silverstein, I think he popped in $40 million for the Twin Towers, right? But the really serious money came from a cartel, excuse me, made up of Citibank and Wells Fargo. And they put up about $3.2 billion. And I think Wells Fargo was the master servicer. So I won't ask you to explain that, Phil, because I'm sure you know.
Yes, I do know.
Good. So the third paragraph, I'm going to be inviting you to throw some mackerel to the people in the chat room, bless them, if they can come up with a name associated with a date and the context or content of this third paragraph. McConnell alleges that Marcy set up the Department of Justice and Treasury asset forfeiture funds to provide low-cost finance for CAI loan sharks led by the late Walter Wriston, who, as the former CEO of Citibank and Citigroup from 1967 to 1984, appears to have structured the leveraged leases which trapped Donald Trump in a web of collateralized debt in his airline, hotel, and casino businesses. Now, there's a year there, Field, which is very important, and there's a name that is not referred to in this paragraph, as to someone who has serious expertise in leveraged leases that may have played a major role in triggering the leveraged lease, which made a lot of money for the lessors in the case of the Twin Towers demolition. Over to you.
Are you asking me if I know who that is?
Yes.
That's Obama, isn't it?
Oh, you're good. Well, you better hang on to your mackerel.
No, actually, there's two things you need to know.
Right.
George Holdsworth earlier said that he hoped there was plenty of mackerel to go around. So if anybody else says they knew that, then they'll get a mackerel. And also in today's radio show ad, I put something that you just talked about, which if you had realized that I put it in a radio show ad, you wouldn't have had to go to such great lengths talking about it. But I can't remember what it was because the monotone nature of your voice puts me to sleep, just like ladies and thespian outlets.
Did you say a thespian outlet?
You know, a stage, a theater.
Oh, okay, that's an odd way of describing the stage, a thespian outlet.
Well,
have you ever sat on a thespian outlet?
I've had did you say thespian or lesbian?
I think I said thespian.
Well, I think we have about 5 minutes till prayer time. And in fact, I'm going to read three things that people can put up if they wish to. Gobsmack can put up Matthew. Wait a minute, somebody just put it up. I wonder if that wasn't Gobsmack. Let me go find out. In which case, he's way ahead of me, which is routine. Nope, Agent 66 did that. So Gobsmack can do 1 Timothy 2:8, and Jack Mack or whoever's faster can do Zechariah 1:3. So David, over to you. We got about 4 minutes. Turn that mic on.
Right. Yeah, would you like to?
Yes.
Or do you want me to?
No, I'll do it.
Explain why Obama is connected to the leveraged lease community in 1984?
Yes, because he worked for British Invisibles and he spent 1981 over in Quetta, Pakistan with his mother and Osama bin Laden, who is then going by the CIA cover identity Tim Osman.
Very good. And he was at the Lahore Hilton Hotel, right?
Yeah, and did I ever tell you that a friend of mine picked up Ramsey Youssef at the Lahore Hilton Hotel?
No, you didn't.
Okay, I'll tell you some other time. We got to keep these people begging for more.
Okay, so what we've got the ingredients in the 80s are your sister launches the Department of Justice Asset Forfeiture Fund in 1984, together with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. You've got Barack Obama, then Barry Spataro, in 1981 or thereabouts, staying with his bizarre fetishist mother in the Lahore Hilton, apparently developing this technique under British supervision of using pedophile entrapment in 4-star hotels to capture a high-value target and then blackmail them. So when Obama goes to BIC in New York and learns about and promotes and describes and develops leverage lease techniques, the guy he must have been working with, I believe, would be Walter Wriston, the man who provided loan finance to Mr. Trump. So you've got this fascinating situation where the sharks, that is the pedophile loan sharks, including Barack Hussein Obama and Walter Wriston with CAI, are providing leverage lease finance to Trump so that he can develop his businesses in the areas of airlines, Trump shuttling, 1988 to 1991. And I don't want to be too disrespectful of this guy, your president, but it does seem to me a little odd that he would choose to plate the toilet seat with gold leaf in order to add a certain... is bling an acceptable word in the United States, Phil?
Yes, it is, but just like you've recovered from some childish behavior involving muscles at the Pink Pussycat in Paris, and
What?
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 What did I just say?
Well, I mean, I'm just, that's an exclamation of surprise.
Well, then why don't you let me finish my testimony and then act even more surprised?
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, you no longer hang around places like the Pink Pussycat to watch women um, project muscles, the kind of muscles that are seafood, mussels. And there's a lot of things I used to do when I was younger I don't do anymore. So I think Trump is entitled to the same opportunity to say that 26 years after he was doing what he used to be doing, maybe he's doing something better. But you know, it's almost prayer time. So do you want to make a short statement?
Very quickly, I would say yes. I think he's perfectly entitled to that. However, the loan sharks would not have gone away, and they'd have built up a battery of collateralized debt obligations that could be constraining President Trump right now. And it's our job, I believe, self-appointed, to relieve him of that burden. Over to you.
Yes. It's fun having your burdens relieved. There was once a song by, actually, there still is a song. Somebody will put it up. Uh, The Bright Side of the Road by Van Morrison. But let's go into the Jesus Calling book for today's date, February 6th. Come to me and rest. I am all around you to bless and restore. Breathe me in with each breath. The way just ahead of you is very steep. Slow down and cling tightly to my hand. I am teaching you a difficult lesson, learned only by hardship. Boy, does that hit home at this time in my life. But let me continue. Lift up empty hands of faith to receive my precious presence. Light, life, joy, and peace flow freely through this gift. When your focus turns away from me, you grasp for other things. You drop the glowing gift of my presence as you reach for lifeless ashes. Return to me, regain my presence. Someone put up Matthew 11:28 to 29, but I'll read it. It has special significance to me, and I won't say why unless I'm face to face with somebody who asks me. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. And then from 1 Timothy 2:8, I want men everywhere to lift up holy hands in prayer without anger or disputing. And from Zechariah 1:3, therefore tell the people, this is what the Lord Almighty says, return to me, declares the Lord Almighty, and I will return to you, says the Lord Almighty. And in place of 90 seconds of silence, I will just say that everything David and I have done since 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 6th of December of 2006, is try to help global commoners be relieved of the burden of oppression, because we know how innocent they are of deserving it. We know exactly who's putting it on them. David, over to you. Okay, this microphone thing.
I'm just trying to get the right button filled, but I'm back in.
Well, good.
So, yeah, I've just put up a little excerpt from, I think it's Wikipedia, about BIC on the subject of Barry Soetoro, or Barack Hussein Obama. So in 1984, he apparently was writing on leverage, lease, and currency swaps. And these developed into some of the financial instruments that were used to collapse the American mortgage industry in 2008. So this guy, he may be a community organizer, but someone was fast tracking him towards a career ultimately that would take him to the White House, past a number of techniques developed by the mob in New York to control and blackmail and extort potentially people of influence, such as, for all I know, Walter Wriston and Donald Trump. And it's not so much that I think Trump is a perpetrator, I think he's a victim. So when your sister develops this technique of piping pay-per-view snuff films and child pornography into the guest suites of elite hotels, she ends up with an amazing resource to extort concessions from the people staying in those hotels, which are frequently occupied by powerful or influential or potentially powerful politicians or business people or military leaders or whomsoever. So she ends up with the various lawyers that control intellectual property, such as the snuff film archive, which I have reason to believe includes Michelle Obama, and other kinds of property, including patented devices, such as the patented devices that we use to take the planes into the buildings or into the drop zone over the Atlantic on 911. And there, of course, you need a patent lawyer like Hillary Clinton. Now, do we know that Hillary Clinton was associated with the technology of 911? Well, what do you think, Phil?
Give me a laconic question. If it was not, do I think Hillary Clinton was associated with the technologies of 9/11?
No, we know that she was, but what was the particular technology she was closely associated with?
Well, it started with a patent for BEI Corporation of Little Rock that was protected by Rose Law, and the patent was for QRS-11, which is a triaxial solid-state gyroscope that is necessary in supersonic capable flying vehicles, of which a Boeing 757 is not. You can get it supersonic, but you can't fly it supersonic. You'll lose control of it. But I've actually experienced that long, long time ago in another airliner because some doorknob captain was trying to dazzle me with how fast he could make a DC-9-80 go, or was it DC-9-50? I think it was a DC-9-50. Anyway, he was showing me how fast it would go descending into Kansas City, and he lost control of the vertical axis and the nose started dropping. David, if you're already going really fast and the nose drops, what happens then?
You crash into the ground.
No, you go faster.
Oh, yes, to recover control, right?
No, 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 no.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, all right, understood.
See, you listen, but you don't hear anything. But anyway, what was your question? Your question was the technologies from the QRS-11 that she ripped off from BEI Corporation of Little Rock. Then she worked with Raytheon Corporation, who made supersonic, all sorts of supersonic air-to-ground missiles and air-intercept missiles. And then she worked with BUAP, which is the world's biggest MF misnomer, because, watch this, David, in the chat room, I'm going to ask for the first three people that can tell me which corporation builds the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot, I will give them a verbal mackerel. And then from the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot, she coupled that with the ATI, which is the air tranquility injector or infuser or whatever. And then collectively, these things are all called actually the name of I'll put it up because it's confusing. When you take all these pieces of excrement, make a giant shit sandwich, collectively it's called the bugs, all capital letters, BUGS, capital S01, capital E03, bugs S01, E03. So, David, that's quite a mouthful. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did, Field. And I think what's nice there is we have Hillary Clinton, who's responsible for building the patent pool of weaponized devices for the 9/11 attack. And we have Michelle Obama, who's an intellectual property lawyer with Sidley Austin that employed Bernardine Dawn, the three-finger Dawn salute, as a coach or a mentor for little Barry from the period, I think, 1989, I think, to 1991. And then, of course, through Valerie Jarrett, she continued to control little Barry, even all the way through to the Oval Office.
Okay,
so you've got two.
Wait, hang on. You got two little Barrys, but I said that I would reward people with a verbal mackerel for anybody who says, which corporation builds Boeing uninterruptible autopilots? Before I throw them a mackerel, David, do you know who builds them?
General Electric, right?
Yep, Agent 66 knew, Gobsmack knew, Jack Mack said Honeywell, and that's right because it's called the Boeing Honeywell uninterruptible autopilot. So Honeywell participates, GE delivers it, Boeing installs it. Agent T and Slacker got it, Eagle H got it, David R got it, Karen S got it. I think that's all the macros I need. Anyway, go ahead, David, and do you remember where you were at?
Yeah, sure.
Good, over to you.
Yeah, so we have to ask ourselves, how come Christine Marcy exercises such control over her prospective enemies that they keep their mouths shut? Well, this is the fourth or fifth paragraph in today's post. AD research suggests that in 1994, Serco shareholders positioned Marcy, currently an ICE Foundation board director, as director of the U.S. Justice, Prisoner and Alien Transportation System, JPATS equals Con Air, so she could transfer blackmailers, victims, and actors to join 8A snuff film crews in elite hotels. Now, if you work for a company like Boeing or Northrop Grumman or Raytheon or Lockheed Martin, for example, four of the key mentor companies on the Federal Bridge Certification Authority set up by Hillary Clinton, your directors, they fly around the world trying to put deals together. They check into the very best hotels. And these are inevitably targets for someone like Christine Marcy because she knows once they're in those hotels and there's a decent distance between them and their spouses and their children, they become very attractive targets for a sexual honeypot. Where it's just really a matter of finding out what turns them on. One of the things that can turn on a lonely executive in a five-star hotel 10,000 miles away from his wife or her husband is the films that are piped through pay-per-view. And from distant memory, I seem to remember when I was at a Marriott hotel in Texas, in Houston, there was a range of films that I could have bought. I didn't buy any one because I've got other things to do. But, you know, it had the range of documentary, and then there was XX, the implication being that this was a movie that was sexually orientated. Now, it would be very simple when someone pays with their credit card, and I know that they try to anonymize the purchases so that the guest does not, when the wife or the husband looks at the credit card purchases, doesn't recognize it as downloading a dirty movie. But the point is the people who put that transaction together or the software, they can monitor it, and they now have a record of the credit card, the name, the date, the time, and the place, and quite possibly a film of the individual watching the movie in his or her presidential suite, whatever they do, to the accompaniment of what they see on the film. So your sister would have created an opportunity for these people, whether they knew it or not, when they download or watch an XX film, to substitute a real life live broadcast snuff film, possibly involving children. Now that, of course, no doubt for decent human beings, that's not what they dialed up on pay-per-view, but that's what they've got. And it's now recorded by someone, in fact, I would say it was Field's sister principally, that they've been watching live snuff films. What your sister needed, of course, back then, in the early 90s, or the mid-90s, was a place where she could produce or have these snuff films produced with children outside the reach of the investigative arm of the FBI and the analysis of a possible RICO enterprise. So it seems like, Phil, this is speculation, that your sister approached the present Governor General, David Johnston of Canada, and asked him if he could find a site for her people with ICE and the Serco mentors where they could develop some live broadcast snuff film facility that could be broadcast into these elite hotels. And lo and behold, David Johnston, it seems, came up with a pig farm in British Columbia owned by the Clinton brothers Dave and Willie Picton, and their sister, Linda Picton. And interestingly, Field, the pig farm appears to have been the subject of a leveraged lease or mortgage, where the content, what was produced at the pig farm, was owned by the people who put up the money to upgrade the farm with $1 million barn, which could seat and feed 500 people, to a Friday night rave where 1,700 people would be flown in from across North America, presumably including people flown in by your sister on Conair. So they'd check into the various hotels at Port Coquitlam, and they could either stay in their room and watch the snuff film or go down to the pig farm and participate in the snuff. So it's pretty sordid, and I think, it puts your sister, in terms of centuries-old criminals, right at the top of the stack, because I think she actually enjoys watching these kind of movies, particularly when it involves the torture of white Anglo-Saxon men or women, but maybe I'm exaggerating. So we got the situation from 1996 to 2002, when Willie Picton was arrested. My First Nations friends tell me that they think probably 100 women and children were killed out at the pig farm in snuff films. And since the pig farm or Piggy's Palace Good Time Society was registered as a federal society or charity by the Governor General's office, I believe the Governor General should have known and did know the purpose of this charity or this society. So we now have David Johnston, Governor General of Canada, is a fellow special investor, CA special investor, with Walter Wriston, the late Walter Wriston, who put the leverage leases together for Donald Trump with Barack Obama, and a fellow special investor with one Alexander Haig. Do you remember what Alexander Haig was doing on 911 Field? Over to you.
Yeah, I believe he was watching porn films and eating Cheetos, and his urologist said, "How come it's orange?" But we don't have time for that. He was speculating because when somebody handed him a cue card that said they had just flown some buildings, they'd flown some airplanes into buildings in New York, he said, "Aha! Looks. I don't want to speculate, but it looks like the work of Bin Laden or the Palestinians." Am I close?
You're absolutely, well, no, you're not quite right. He said the Palestinians or the Bin Laden group, but I'll give you a couple of macro because I think I've got a couple of spare ones here.
What did I say?
Well, you said something different.
I said, I think, and I'll have the chat room hold me accountable. I said, it looks like the work of Bin Laden or the Palestinians.
Oh, okay. Well, it's the Bin Laden group. And
of course it is. And
so you were close.
Where's the Bin Laden group's airport in England?
Well, that's where you were with Denise.
Yeah, but you're avoiding answering the question. You're accusing me of not knowing my ass from third base, and I gave you an opportunity to say Bryce Norton, but you didn't say it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, one mackerel back to you then.
No, I'll take 2 mackerel and a tin of sardines and heavy oil.
Okay. Well, that's this is really very encouraging.
Okay, over to you.
Okay, so McConnell alleges that Marcy used a federally registered license from Canadian Governor General and CAI Special Investor David Johnston to operate the Piggy Palace Good Time Society as a snuff film production studio at the BC pig farm, where ICE actors were outside the reach of FBI RICO investigators. So maybe some people think this is far-fetched, Phil, but let's get a little closer to the nub of the matter. Do you know what a nub is, Phil?
Yeah, a lot of times over in the United Kingdom, there's private police that go to throw somebody out of their home. It's called an eviction, and those knobs go there to make sure the banks get a hold of the property so they can increase the revenue at the same time rendering the previous uh, resident of the home, for instance, Tom Crawford. I think you know that I went to Nottingham back in May of 2015, and watch how fast somebody puts up the Walton Hotel. And I stayed at the Walton Hotel in May of 2015, and there's some really good pictures that were taken there. There's a picture of me sitting in front of a very nice piece of furniture, and I think I'm wearing an Able Danger t-shirt, an open other shirt, and maybe even a blue blazer. I'll go find the picture myself if someone else doesn't put it up. But David, did I get the question right, or did you not give me a question?
Probably both, Phil. Moving on, eh?
Well, we didn't look at the chat room. Somebody
Yes, I
just,
did. Oh,
okay.
yeah.
What did you see that I was about to mention?
Um, let's see. Republics are created by virtue.
No,
Oh, sardines.
no. There's a Freemason who just got caught waiting for a 14-year-old boy to skewer. That's Skewer. So anyway, you go back to being smart or faking it, and oh, there's the Walton Hotel from Gobsmack. Gobsmack, if I ever go up to Nottingham again and we have a reservation at the Nottingham Walton Hotel, somebody should put up their website. There's a suite. It's actually an apartment across the street from the hotel that they rent out. I'm going to go find the picture. David, why don't you go ahead and do some of that cheesy dribble while I get a picture from my past?
Okay, so we're talking about Christine Marcy and the development of a live broadcast snuff film service at a pig farm in British Columbia, where she could send her ICE people, Immigration, Customs and Enforcement, to be trained by Serco at simulated crime scenes. So the great majority of people participating in that exercise would believe that this was a simulation, and it would allow them to recognize, I don't know, child pornography confiscated at the border, and prevent aliens from coming into the country, the United States of America, and setting up the kind of sleeper cells that we saw with the Bin Laden group. And of course, from Marcy's point of view, she's actually training, or potentially she's training people who could, how shall I say it, double cross that system. And instead of putting on a simulation where legitimate people are actually thinking they're learning how to do this, you put illegitimate people in the same position, like out at the pig farm, or give them flight training lessons, etc., and you can actually turn a simulated exercise like Amalgam Global Guardian into the, and then the great people, particularly the ones who got trapped in those hotel rooms, they're too terrified to speak out about what they saw. So she's really got a very, very nice little system running there. McConnell believes that Ms. Marcy sent IRS and US Customs Service agents to raid the premises of Starnet in Vancouver on August the 20th, 1999, and take the systems and
Hey, David, your Skype's goofing up, so stop.
material.
Hang on, David. Yoo-hoo. Stop moving around your Skype microphone. Your Skype microphone. David, can you hear me?
I'm stationary.
Yeah, okay. Because when you move,
yes.
No, wait a minute. When you move, we can't hear you. So anyway, go ahead and move all you want when you're not talking, and then I'll take over and talk. And I just posted the link to, there are about 6 of us from Able Danger, maybe 8, that showed up in Nottingham, and I got the interview. I just posted it. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
Okay, no sweat, but I'm actually immobile, apart from my lower jaw, which is just flapping up and down. And how's the sound now?
Lovely.
Oh, good. That's a nice way of describing the way I talk.
No, that's cheesy drivel. The sound is lovely.
All right. Okay, thank you. So, Able Danger, Ms. McConnell believes that Ms. Marcy sent these IRS, right, and so actually set up this a distribution system for the child pornography and the snuff films in the Marriott and Starwood hotel chains. Now I think that's what you described as hidden in plain view. Did I describe to you what hidden in plain view was, Phil?
Yes, and Hidden in Plain View was a DVD by David Von Kleitz, and after I watched it, I thought it was the best thing I'd ever seen, right up until, and I'm going to need some help from the chat room. No, I think I don't need any help. In the original version of In Plain Sight, a DVD about the flying events of 9/11, there is a air traffic control lady from Washington D.C. whose name is Danielle O'Brien. Hey, Gobsmack, can you? Oh, thanks, Gobsmack, for putting that picture of me up. David, do you see the picture of me?
Hold on. Yes, I do.
Okay, do you see there's a tan shirt that says Able Danger?
I do. I see.
I'm wearing
I conquered.
I'm wearing my jacket with the little gold wings, and behind me, what's that black thing with silver bars? You know?
Black thing with silver bars. That is your uniform.
Yeah, it's my Marine Corps uniform. Somebody that was there asked me to bring my Marine Corps uniform, and I said, okay, I'll be happy to. But when I wore that, my waist was size 28, and it's no longer that size. David, over to you.
Oh, perish the thought. So there's a little protuberance, is there?
There's a Milwaukee tumor. Do you know what that is?
Well, it's probably English, American for a protuberance.
Nope. A Milwaukee tumor is what happens to someone's tummy if they drink more than 300 six-packs of beer a day.
Oh dear. Wow, that's quite sobering.
It is. Over to you.
Okay. AD claims that in 1998, Serco shareholders positioned Marcy as Chief Operating Officer of the Small Business Administration to set up the Office of SBIC liquidation and finance the 8A ICE attacks, with BNY Mellon as trustee and Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, and JP Morgan as underwriters for 911. Now, this is where I think we're getting evidence that as strong-minded as Donald Trump is, he is potentially, well, he always was, a target for potential blackmail, entrapment, and extortion. And I personally, in his position, I wouldn't have gone anywhere near Goldman Sachs to set up as his advisors. And I think his name is Steve Mnuchin, and is he the Treasury Secretary Field? Over to you.
Okay, you're over to me twice, so I'll respond to you twice. Yeah, Munchkin came from Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs did 9/11. Did they do it alone? No, but they did it at such a high level that Warren Buffett invited 300 Goldman Sachs bankers to the underground command post of what used to be the Strategic Air Command, which was shut down in 1991 off the top of my head by George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. And from there, they watched the carnage at New York City, World Trade I and World Trade II. And so Warren Buffett and Goldman Sachs, they obviously both knew that the 9/11 attack was coming. They knew what time roughly to be inside the command post of the Strategic Air Command office, the former office, the underground command post at Offutt Air Force Base in Bellevue, Nebraska, where there is a visiting officers' quarters named O'Malley Hall, and where I think this is going to sound like a boast to anybody who doesn't understand how BS it is, but I think I might be one of the very few guys that ever backed up an F4 with the engines running, because I was there one day just out tooling around in my F4, and I landed, and then I was going to take off without refueling to go back to Fargo, and I saw a very steep taxiway that went somewhere. I didn't know where it went, but I realized if I went up the taxiway a little bit, I pulled my throttles to idle, I'd probably roll back downhill. And if not, I guess I'd just go uphill until I found out what's on the other side. So yes, I understand exactly that Goldman Sachs, CAI, let me think, that other group up there, Carlyle Canada, MDA, Warren Buffett, two big banks, one being Wells Fargo, the master servicer, and some other bad hombres did 9/11. And I didn't just misspeak. And if I did, somebody please correct me in the chat room. David, over to you. So that microphone. Oh. GHW Bush saying he's still okay. I don't know what happened to David. In fact, would somebody tell him to call me back? Or did you lose me? Well, that's a good question. Lost Field or lost David? Yeah, we lost David. 17 ringy dingies.
Oh, we're back.
Where were we?
A rat go up of my son in White Rock.
Yeah, but once again, you're moving around, so we couldn't hear that. Where were we?
I'm totally stationary. I'm up there.
Okay.
Interference, but I saw. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, if you're stationary, then there's something wrong with your Skype, but it's doable. So keep going.
Okay. Paragraph of the Post today claims the CIA investor, the Alexander Haig, prepared the Serco ice snuff film for the events of 9, where voice act used local hotels attributed to the Bin Laden group to decoy perceptions from Serco negates, which is the phrase from assist about the enemy is within. So the challenge for Able Danger, I think, Phil, is to alert Trump that within the gates, and really it's very simple because that enemy led by your sister, Christine Marcy, who I cannot enough is a very powerful person because her friends are, but because is terrified. Nothing, I would guess, fine. Can you hear me?
No, it's very poor, and it's at your end. I just got that from somebody who's in the electronics business that's in Texas. So I don't know what's going on with your microphone, but we're only getting about 60% of what it appears you're saying.
Well, why don't I shut it and call you back?
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Okay, I challenged the chat room to come up with a song between 1955 and 1990 that I don't know the. Okay, count to 10.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10.
Yeah, it's better, but it's not perfect. But go ahead.
So what I was saying was it's somehow an enormous challenge for people to stand not Trump. It's not the power of his friends. It's the ruthless and resources of his that he has to worry about. And the enemy gates is basically made up of a radical, not necessarily lesbians, but feminists at the senior executive service, which was created by, in 1979, the Jimmy Carter administration, and uses these extraordinary, I think it was put by the British in the Second War, of planting agents in 4-star or 5-star hotels. That a hotel in Vienna where the Duke hang his hat in the World War before he became King Edward VIII, and surround with pedophilia experts to amuse them initially. The material that if either in of Queen Victoria, Elizabeth, or monarchs, or that your sister has been operating directly or indirectly since 1990, and a very painful death for accused of or convicted of pedophilia. But I think she's a terrifying individual. Wouldn't like to be in her sight. I think the kind of people who are exposed to networks would include pilots, flying cabin crew, elite business, military, or whatever. But she will have exploited the international of Marriott Hotel or Starwood. Incidentally, I think Marriott Starwood is the operator hotel in Scotland, which was one of the Bilderberg conference, hosts the British, and is now owned by Trump, but I think operated. Oh, but the security system is installed by Serco. So I think Serco got a stranglehold on Trump, and he needs to eradicate from any government in the United States of America, prosecute them together with the Canadian Americans Private Equity Group as a overdue.
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about because most of us are getting you in a very broken fashion. So I can't respond to what you said because I was busy doing this, as anyone can see in the chat room. It says that Dangerette is Agent 66 with the Able Danger 1966 Crown, Imperial Crown drop top with a 440. And there's a picture on the internet somewhere of that same 1966 Crown Imperial. That's a car. The yellow car is a Chrysler Crown Imperial, or is it a Chrysler? It's an Imperial Crown. And there's a picture out there somewhere. I know you're out there somewhere, somewhere, somewhere. I know I'll find you somewhere, and somehow you come back again to me. That's by the guy from Swindon in England. Swindon is sort of south and west of London, and it's spelled Swindon, and that's Justin Hayward. He and one other guy and myself were probably the three greatest voices, one of which never sang with the Moody Blues. Anybody know for sure what the Moody Blues means? If you're younger than 18, don't listen. David, are you want to try to count to 10 and see if you can go on?
1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, you're still, we heard about 7 of those numbers. So I don't know what's wrong with your microphone. Jack Mac thinks it might be weather related. What's the weather like at your place?
It's horrible. It's been, well, rather than the technology, let's call it, at least at my side, and we'll resume, what's today, Monday, Thursday, that's the 9th.
Okay, well, we can do that, but in what way is the weather horrible?
Snow and there's ice. I don't know if that's a transmission of whatever it is, but it's pretty because we're not used to snow here. My point about Thursday, I've got a few, so could we do it either Friday?
Okay, what do you have Thursday?
Funeral.
Is it for you or Silas?
That would be, I'd need him if it was me.
Well, then we could do it Wednesday if your funeral is on Thursday, but you're not holding a funeral for a pet, are you?
No, it's a friend.
Okay. Well, that's what happens if we live long enough. We go to everybody else's funeral. Now, I fully insist upon going to my funeral, and watch how quickly Jack Mac or Agent 66 or Gobsmack puts up a picture of my hearse. Oh, David, can you hear me? Oh, David.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Did I tell you over the phone that when